Hi, I'm Ashley. What if I told you one of the richest and most influential billionaires in tech achieved his dominance quietly, almost secretly? Larry Page isn't flashy or loud, but his quiet journey to building Google into a global powerhouse is one of the most fascinating billionaire stories you'll ever hear. When we think of tech billionaires, we often picture bold, outspoken figures like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. But Larry Page, Google's co-founder, has always preferred to stay out of the spotlight. And here's the shocking twist. This introverted, quiet genius managed to build one of the most dominant companies the world has ever seen. So, how exactly did Larry Page quietly climb his way to billionaire status without attracting the loud fanfare many of his peers received? It all began quietly at Stanford University, where Larry Page met Sergey Brin, but their partnership almost didn't happen. Initially, they didn't get along. Imagine that. The founders of Google almost never teamed up because they found each other annoying. However, they quickly realized their different personalities complemented each other perfectly. And soon after, they developed the groundbreaking PageRank algorithm, the core of what made Google exceptional. But why did their simple search algorithm turn into something much bigger than Yahoo, Ask Jeeves, or AltaVista ever managed? Here's where Larry Page's quiet brilliance truly shines. Unlike other search engines at the time, Page envisioned a clean, minimalist interface that offered only what users genuinely wanted: simplicity and fast results. Yet even with this innovative idea, Google almost didn't happen. Larry and Sergey famously tried to sell Google in its early days for just $1 million. And shockingly, every single company they approached turned them down. Just imagine being one of those companies now, knowing you passed on owning Google for a tiny fraction of its current worth. Here's the crucial turning point that many overlook. Larry Page was never driven by quick profits or rapid exits. Instead, his silent strategy was always about building something that could change the world long-term. He obsessed about user experience and product quality, not quick headlines or easy money. This quiet, strategic patience set the stage for Google's incredible growth. But there's something else Larry Page did that gave Google an unparalleled advantage. Larry Page quietly implemented something known as moonshot thinking, a term he popularized internally at Google. Rather than incremental progress, he aimed for massive, groundbreaking innovations. This bold approach led to the creation of world-changing products like Gmail, Google Maps, and Android, products we can't imagine life without today. But how did he keep Google consistently innovative year after year without succumbing to the complacency that ruins so many other tech giants? It comes down to Larry's leadership style. He built a culture where experimentation and failure were not just tolerated, but actively encouraged. Page understood something many entrepreneurs miss. True innovation means embracing failure as part of the journey. He quietly nurtured an environment where employees could dream big, fail fast, and pivot quickly, keeping Google constantly ahead of the curve. And here's something else you might not know. Larry Page also quietly prioritized hiring smarter, often unusual talent. He specifically looked for people who didn't fit traditional molds, but had unique, game-changing perspectives. Page once said, "You never lose a dream, it just incubates as a hobby." He believed great ideas often came from unexpected places, quietly brewing until the right moment. But even with a talented team and a culture of innovation, Google's path to dominance wasn't always smooth. Did you know Google nearly collapsed multiple times during its early years, running dangerously low on cash and nearly shutting down completely? In those critical moments, Larry Page's quiet determination became Google's saving grace. He quietly secured funding, carefully managed spending, and strategically expanded the company's offerings. But here's a question few ask. What drove Larry Page to stay so quietly persistent even during Google's darkest days? The answer is surprisingly personal and reveals a side of Larry Page most people never see. Larry Page once revealed that he was driven by a simple but powerful motivation. He wanted to create something meaningful enough to change the world. Money, fame, or flashy success were never his ultimate goals. Instead, he quietly measured success by how much his work improved people's daily lives. Could this deep-rooted sense of purpose be the real reason behind Google's astonishing rise? Think about the last time you searched for information, used maps to navigate, or watched a video on YouTube, all made possible by Google. Larry Page's silent determination ensured that these groundbreaking tools became seamlessly integrated into our lives. But even as Google's success soared, Larry remained elusive, preferring the quiet company of engineers to the loud spotlight of Silicon Valley events. This brings us to another intriguing question. Why did Larry Page step away from Google's day-to-day leadership at the peak of its success? His decision to quietly step aside in favor of Sundar Pichai shocked many in the tech world. But here's the fascinating truth behind that move. Larry always saw himself as an innovator, not an administrator. He knew his strength lay in quietly envisioning and initiating groundbreaking ideas, rather than managing corporate operations. Instead, Larry Page quietly turned his focus toward Alphabet, Google's parent company, overseeing ambitious projects from flying cars to artificial intelligence. By doing this, he allowed Google to thrive operationally while still pursuing his own ambitious dreams. Could stepping away from the limelight actually be the smartest decision a billionaire entrepreneur can make? But there's another quiet secret behind Larry Page's success, one you might not expect. Despite his reserved personality, Larry Page was quietly fearless about taking massive risks. Think about Google's decision to purchase YouTube in its early stages for $1.65 billion, a move many analysts initially called reckless. Today, YouTube is worth hundreds of billions, demonstrating Page's quiet intuition and calculated risk-taking. And yet, perhaps the most surprising part of Larry Page's quiet billionaire journey is how little most of us really know about him. He's managed to build one of history's greatest companies without becoming a celebrity CEO. He rarely gives interviews and carefully guards his privacy. Larry Page understood something critical that many entrepreneurs often overlook. True power doesn't require shouting. It lies in quiet confidence, thoughtful action, and a willingness to let results speak for themselves. So what lessons can you take away from Larry Page's quiet path to billionaire success? Firstly, focus on solving real problems in extraordinary ways, not on making noise. Second, prioritize hiring unconventional talent and building a culture of fearless innovation. And finally, understand when to quietly step aside, empowering others so your business can scale even bigger. Larry Page's silent genius proves that not every billionaire has to be loud or controversial. Sometimes, the most impactful success stories come from those who quietly, patiently, and thoughtfully change the world. As Page himself once said, always deliver more than expected. Now imagine applying Larry Page's quiet brilliance to your own journey. Could embracing these insights help you build something that quietly but profoundly changes the world? Drop your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your take on Larry Page's unique path to Google dominance.